Heaven has no rage like love to hatred turned, and hell has no fury like a woman scorned. This is a line from The Morning Bride, a 1697 play by William Congreve, which tells the story of a marriage that becomes the catalyst to political and religious power struggles, jealousy, betrayal, and murder. It came to my mind when I finished my first playthrough of Silent Hill F, a game where an arranged marriage also causes religious struggles, jealousy, betrayal, and murder. Or, in this case, a massacre committed by the very bride, Hinako Shimizu, who happens to be the protagonist. But one thing Silent Hill F does very well is hide all of that when the game starts. Even though there were signs that Hinako is not your usual high school girl living in the Japanese countryside in the 1960s. In fact, the early, subtle signs that things are not going so well in her home and school life set up the stage so that when the action starts, and Hinako gets her hands on a weapon for the first time, being given the chance to fight a monster instead of running, two things become clear. First, it's the monsters that should be scared of Hinako, not the other way around. Second, we were watching a tale of female rage unfold. Female rage is a concept usually described as the unstoppable, powerful expression of anger from women, caused by systemic sexism, patriarchy, and the suppression of women's emotions. It is the opposite of the old idea that women are passive, compliant when they are victimized. It works as an explosive defiance against social injustices, becoming popular in media. Female rage marks a shift from how women are portrayed, now being allowed to have a more human, violent response to abuse, just like men. And yes, it has become a popular subject in the last 10 years or so, since Gone Girl came out. But this is not a new concept. With movies like Jennifer's Body from 2009, Audition from 1999, and Perfect Blue from 1997, showing just how angry and violent women can get when pushed by men and society. At the end of the day, there is a simple way to recognize female rage in media. Usually, it makes you say this.
Good for her.
And female rage is what we get to explore in Silent Hill F from the very start. The game starts with Hinako storming off the house after an argument with her father, while her mother tries to mediate. As she goes down to the village, she meets her friends and we can tell from their conversations that there seems to be some tension. Sakuko calls her a traitor. Shu refers to some underlying issue Hinako needs to make a decision about. And then we have Renko, who makes it very clear she's not happy to see Hinako to start with. As the girls bow to Hinako, which is probably meant to seem like banter about the fact that she is about to marry into a rich family, but looks passive-aggressive AF, a thick fog comes out of nowhere and Sakuko turns into a crumpet. The fog doesn't come alone. It brings an infestation of higanbana, or red spider lilies, poisonous flowers that are linked to death in Japanese culture, due to the fact that they are planted around burial sites to stop animals from digging in. It's not just the fog and the flowers that appear in Ebisugaoka, but also monsters, which, in good Silent Hill fashion, are representations of the protagonist's own emotions. In this case, Hinako's fears and grudges over the sexist society she lives in and how angry she feels at her lack of agency and the suppression of her emotions. The themes of societal sexism and how it overwhelms Hinako are present in the design of every monster we see. The first enemies we encounter look like real life-size dolls made out of stitched body parts and masks for their faces. Hinako writes about them in her journal, saying, "I wonder if he wants to hurt me the same way it was hurt," hinting at how she sees women who victimize other women instead of fighting the system that oppresses them. Another monster seems to represent Hinako's grudge against violent men who behave as proper, respectable men to neighbors and friends, but show their true colors inside their homes where they abuse their families. A monster that tries licking Hinako's face is named Orihihi, a Japanese term that could refer to dirty old men. We also see how Hinako perceives the poisonous gossip of strangers, the bullying she suffers from other kids at school, and even how motherhood scares her, with a monster covered in what looks like several stomachs that spit new monsters. Hinako writes on her journal, "The wonders of birth do not apply to this." These same themes of sexism and oppression seen in the monsters that attack Hinako are also present in the interactions she has with her family and friends. She talks about the anger she feels for her father, Kanta, for being abusive. Her father used to work as a fisherman and tried to open a restaurant with a business partner who ended up scamming him. Now, with the family swimming in debt, he drinks all day and is verbally and physically abusive against Hinako and her mother, once even throwing a knife at Hinako. And to make things worse, a letter from his brother talks about how Hinako's mom has an illness that requires an expensive surgery. That is when Kanta decides to offer Hinako's hand in an arranged marriage to the Tsunekis, a rich family linked to the worshipping of the local god Inarisama, so that he can get a Yuinukin to pay off both the family debt and the surgery. So Hinako needs to deal with the fact that the big, strong man of the house, who shouts, beats, and threatens her and her mother to get what he wants, failed to do his job, which is to take care of and provide for the family, and now relies on marrying her off to get money to fix the mess he made. Her anger is understandable. Why should she be used as an exchange token against her will when he's the one who messed up? Hinako has this to say about her father's attempt to marry her into the Tsunekis. "If everything works out, they're going to give my father a lot of money. I'm sure he's desperate to use it to pay back his debts. My father is selling me to pay back his debts." The situation does not get any better as Hinako's mom, Kimie, sides with her father. Hinako talks about how much she begrudges her mother for being passive and not standing up to him. She says her biggest fear is to become like her, a wife, subjected to the wants of her husband, blinded by her duty to be a good wife to the point where she ignores any sign that things may be wrong. But Kimie is not as passive as Hinako thinks. If anything, she's passive-aggressive, as she reveals that in order to get what she wanted from Hinako's father, she once did not speak to him for days and wrung dirty rags into his tea until he apologized to her. This shows another side of female rage, where women, being conditioned to not show anger or violence, act in sneaky ways, which is a very toxic coping mechanism as it festers, rather than the release one can get from allowing anger to flow naturally. In fact, even this disease she has could be a part of that, as bottling up these kinds of emotions can cause a buildup of toxins, and the stress hormone cortisol leading to illnesses. Unable to count on her parents, Hinako turned to her older sister, Junko, to be her rock. Being the eldest daughter, Junko was the perfect child, behaving the way she was expected to, and also looking out for Hinako as they were growing up. She once told Hinako that the quickest way to happiness is to live the way society expects women to. Hinako expresses her frustration over her sister's words, replying that if there is a quick way to happiness, there must be another way as well. She struggles to accept Junko's submission as she wants to make her own choices, and she does not think things worked out so well for her mother and her sister after they got married. Hinako writes on her journal about the experience of seeing Junko when she was pregnant. Her hands were rough and chapped, and her face looked as though she had aged decades overnight. When I saw her like that, it was as if the sister that I adored had disappeared. As Junko moves away from the Shimizu residence, Hinako is left alone in the abusive home, without anyone to turn to. The tone of Hinako's words when talking about her family is full of anger and grudge. The very people who are supposed to be her support system either abuse her, enable that abuse, or abandon her. And things outside her home life are not good either. Hinako talks about how she's always been a bit of a tomboy, preferring to play with boys, and how that's always caused her to be bullied by both boys, who belittled her for being a girl, and by the girls, who bullied her for not being girly enough. And this is where we get into her three friends, Shu, Sakuko, and Rinko. Shu was the only boy who never mistreated Hinako because of her gender. Instead, they played together for so long as they grew up that they call each other partner, and she confides in him about problems in her life, including the arranged marriage her father is pushing her into. Coming from a family of pharmacists, Shu helps Hinako by giving her a natural remedy to help with the bad tension headaches she gets. One person who does not seem to like this friendship one bit is Rinko, as it is very obvious she has a crush on Shu and seems annoyed by Hinako just being around him. We see this in their interactions in the early scenes, but it becomes clearer later on as we find Rinko's own diary pages, where she explains how she dislikes Hinako, but keeps her around to make herself look good to Shu. Rinko's diary shows how female rage can branch into another concept, that of internalized misogyny, where a woman, after being ruled by sexism for so long, starts to begrudge other women, attacking them to give herself a feeling of power by becoming the oppressor, ignoring that they are both being oppressed by the same group, men. In her case, this internalized misogyny comes with an added layer, female competition, where women start seeing other women as enemies, competitors instead of peers, whether over status, resources, or, you guessed it, men. And this is what makes Rinko so angry at Hinako. The fact that even though Hinako doesn't behave in the dignified way Rinko thinks a girl should, Hinako is the one who gets all the attention from Shu, not Rinko, no matter how much of a perfect girl she pretends to be. With Sakuko, things are a little more nuanced. She's embracing tradition in a world that is quickly moving on, dreaming of one day taking over the family shrine dedicated to the divine tree, even though the village has stopped going there. Sakuko does not have many friends at school, as the other kids find her weird and childish because of her devotion. She sees Hinako's marriage as a betrayal, as she felt they were both outcasts that would always stick together. To Sakuko, Hinako's marriage makes her feel abandoned, left behind by Hinako as she moves on with her life. So we see yet again an example of passive-aggressive behavior, with Sakuko calling Hinako a traitor, trying to pass it as banter. And at last, we get to Kotoyuki, Hinako's soon-to-be groom, introduced to us as Fox Mask in the spirit world. Fox Mask is gentle to Hinako, looking after her, caring for her, telling her how much he treasures her. And yet, he pretty much orders her about. He instructs her on what to do, never asking her if she wants to do it. Even though he recognizes how painful it all is to Hinako, he does not stop. The contrast between caring for her but taking her agency away shows the idea of a husband's role at the time. The role of looking after his wife by telling her what to do. And Hinako does as she's told. At first, by completing small rituals. But later, the rituals escalate to the point where Hinako has to give away parts of herself, having those replaced with her new family's identity and their power. What we see here is how many times in relationships with unhealthy power dynamics, things start small. First, choice is taken away in the guise of care. Later, subjugation is expected in the guise of duty, with presents and wealth being given to make up for everything else that was taken away. This is what the process of having her hand given away in an arranged marriage meant to Hinako, having her agency and her identity taken away, following tradition in what feels like ritualistic violence. Why is it that a man who says he cares so much about her is happy for her to be subjected to the same cycle as so many women that came before her? Coming from a home where she experienced firsthand how abusive a marriage can be, observing her dear sister give her own identity away and become unrecognizable, dealing with the pressures of gender expectations and the bullying it comes with, Hinako finds this one person who claims to love her so much and promises a life of splendor, so of course she is infatuated by him. But little by little, she feels that maybe he's not so different from everyone else. And at her wedding, she snaps. Many times, when anger is repressed, it turns inwards, with self-destructive behaviors. One illness in particular that women who repress their anger are likely to develop is addiction. Remember those red pills Hinako takes for tension headaches? Well, she overdoses on the red pills, and finally crushes under the pressure put on her by everyone. Hinako has a breakdown and gives into the anger she has bottled up for so many years, committing a massacre at her own wedding, bringing this tale of female rage to a very tragic end, almost as if she never stood a chance. But here's the thing about making the theme of this game be the social, physical, and emotional implications of sexism. This is a concept that was added to a Silent Hill game, a well-established franchise which is one of the building blocks of survival horror, with millions of fans. So, of course, people will have an opinion. And one opinion we can see on the internet is that apparently Silent Hill F is just feminist, anti-marriage, anti-natalist propaganda, and that's not what Silent Hill is about. Except that this is not the first time where the female experience took center stage in a Silent Hill game. And I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent with heavy Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3 spoilers, so if you'd rather skip that, just go to the timestamp on the screen. Okay. Long before we roamed the streets of Ebisugaoka, beating the living heck out of enemies with a lead pipe as Hinako, we roamed Silent Hill beating the living heck out of enemies as Heather, Silent Hill 3's protagonist. Heather is at first your average Y2K American teenage girl, angsty, short-tempered, with a sarcastic and sharp tongue. What starts as a tale of a young girl trying to escape hell and find her father takes a turn when she finds out her father has been murdered. And this is when she makes a decision. It's time to stop trying to run away from that hell and instead descend into it to get her revenge against the cult responsible for killing the one person she's ever had in her corner. Silent Hill 3's combat is very intense, and the violence we see in the game isn't just for the sake of shock value. You see, the contrast of seeing 17-year-old baby-faced Heather go from running away from monsters to completely wrecking them shows one of Silent Hill 3's main themes: the loss of innocence a girl experiences as she travels into womanhood. The world surrounding Heather has an animosity that goes beyond the monsters, which, speaking of, all seem to have designs reminiscing of certain body parts. I mean, this one is just one giant poking out of holes. But one of the worst monsters Heather deals with is one she never even sees. I'm talking about Stanley Coleman, her stalker. Stanley is this presence that leaves Heather poems along with dolls, talking about how much he loves her and how much he wants to hurt her. He shows us a woman's experience of being harassed by men, feeling stalked, feeling constantly unsafe whilst just going about her life. Other themes such as pregnancy and bodily autonomy are also present, from the environment that looks so fleshy, almost as if Heather is inside of a living body, to the puzzle where we pick up a wire hanger at the shopping mall and use it to pull a step ladder. Do you know what else people have used wire hangers for? And if that was too subtle, we get to Claudia, the member of the cult responsible for not only killing Heather's father, but also for the plan of forcing her to give birth to their demon god against her will. In the conclusion, Heather is able to vomit the demon fetus thanks to taking an elixir to expel parasites or demons. And people think Silent Hill F is the game with an anti-natalist message? Silent Hill 3's story is essentially a teenage girl's experience of the fear of having her body and her future taken from her. Does that sound familiar? And speaking of familiar,
do look like your girlfriend.
Let's talk about Maria. In Silent Hill 2, Maria starts out as Mary's doppelganger, with their looks being their only thing in common. She's sexy, she flirts with James, jokes around, offers to help him out. But the second she feels some indifference, she snaps.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway?
Maria is like the monsters James finds, a representation of his pent-up frustrations and guilt over killing Mary, who was unable to fulfill his desires due to her illness. But unlike the monsters who just mindlessly attack James, Maria is an actual person with her own wants. She wishes to find someone she can connect with, but due to the fact she was created by the town to be James's perfect woman, she sees no choice but to play that role. But the problem here is not that James did not have the perfect woman in Mary. The problem is that the perfect woman simply does not exist for him. His expectations of women are distorted, so it doesn't matter who it is, the goalpost will always be moved. And Maria is a victim of that, with her suffering serving as a torment to him, as she keeps trying everything she can to please him, getting killed and revived repeatedly in the process. This is Silent Hill's attempt to force him to see past his entitlement and recognize how he mistreated Mary during her illness, how he killed her, and how he would just repeat that cycle of neglect with anyone else for as long as he stays in denial. In the end, in a final effort to please James, Maria appears fully dressed as Mary, the perfect wife James has been looking for the whole time he's had Maria right by his side. But by this point in the story, James has faced the truth of his actions, which means Maria no longer has a role to fulfill. So this is the moment when she has to face the fact she never had a chance at being happy. Being born from the distorted mind of a man who had unrealistic expectations of women, she did her best to please him, only to be told he doesn't need her anymore because, what? He learned his lesson? This is where, in an act of defiance, she refuses to let him go. After going through so much suffering and humiliation to be chosen by him, his rejection causes Maria to attack James, becoming the game's final boss. Her tragedy shows us that James may be the protagonist, but Maria is the key character of Silent Hill 2. It's thanks to her that we see the kind of man James truly is, before he even admits it to himself. There is no redemption for James without Maria, and even then, he needs to weather her wrath over what he's done to her, as she finally sees him for who he really is and refuses to be thrown away. How's that for female rage? Of course, we cannot talk about female stories taking center stage in a Silent Hill game without talking about Alessa, aka the person who created Silent Hill in the first place. Alessa Gillespie was a young girl with supernatural abilities who lived in Silent Hill long before it became engulfed in fog. Alessa did not have an easy childhood. She suffered physical abuse from her mother and was bullied at school, being called a witch for her powers. And if that wasn't bad enough, at the age of 7, she was burned alive by her mother in an attempt to impregnate her with the god of a cult. Yes, this sounds familiar, and there is a reason for that. But honestly, that would be a separate video in itself, so for now, let's just go with history tends to repeat itself. They're the same person. Heather is Alessa's reincarnation. Anyway, what followed for Alessa was 7 years of being kept in the basement of a hospital in secret, in agony, not only from the burn wounds, but also the demon in her body, the continued abuse from her mother, and the fact she split her soul into halves to stop the demon from growing. And this is when Alessa creates the fog world of Silent Hill as well as the other world in an attempt to stop the cult from putting her soul back together to complete the ritual. Her powers open the door to another dimension where the monsters we see in the first game are representations of her fears and traumas. We know the cult decided to use Alessa to birth their god because she had supernatural powers, she was special. Well, if we stop to compare Alessa's Silent Hill and Hinako's Ebisugaoka, it's like coming full circle. Silent Hill F, however, doesn't have a cult, right? Well, not if you only play it once. With New Game Plus, we get not only new endings, but new cutscenes, new documents, and a new perspective on the details of Hinako's arranged marriage, and all the forces at play. Starting with the deities of Ebisugaoka, which go far back to a time when the land was called Higa. Plagued by toxic gas spouting out of geysers, the locals believed a water dragon was responsible for it. Described as a poisonous water spirit that required people to provide it with sacrifices for it to be appeased. But later, a monk started worshipping a cedar tree, saying it was sacred and that it had drained the dragon's power. That was when the people started worshipping the divine tree, and later that worship evolved into the Tsukumogami, a belief where certain items left in shrines would develop souls after a certain time. After a storm, however, the tree was struck by lightning and was destroyed. That was when the people turned to worship the next oldest thing, the Inari-sama statue. This made so that both the Tsukumogami and Inari-sama became protectors of the town, with its people treating them as part of one big amalgamation of beliefs. But the two deities enter a conflict to become the dominant one. With time, people started mainly worshipping Inari-sama, with the Tsukumogami becoming weaker, holding a grudge against Inari-sama for winning. This meant Inari-sama became the protector of the village against the water dragon, keeping it contained. But it also meant the Tsukumogami started plotting its revenge against both Inari-sama and the people of the Bisugaoka who abandoned their original protector. With the worship of Inari-sama, one family started gaining power, the Tsunekis. In a note from a maid, they are described as, the Tsunekis are the most notable family in this area and are known for their wealth. For generations, each head of the family has possessed a talent for business, an acumen they have utilized during times of social unrest to amass a large fortune. However, given how a great many suffered while they grew rich, their actions have often drawn envious eyes. My grandmother shared some of the many rumors that swirl around the family. Each time the world falls to pieces, the Tsunekis' treasury only grows larger. The Tsunekis are happily waiting for misfortune to strike so they can line their pockets. Other documents expose how the rituals we see Hinako go through in a dark shrine may be more than just a metaphor for giving up her identity in the name of tradition and fitting into her new family. They are also evidence of the fact that Tsunekis really do partake in ritualistic violence in the real world, offering human sacrifices to keep the water dragon from destroying the village, as seen on mandate of the clan. A living sacrifice shall be offered every 8 years, for nothing else can quell the wrath which dwells in the waters deep. She shall be a maiden, fair and pure of heart, and the blood which flows through her veins shall be that which has been blessed by the stars and is beloved by fate. Let it be known that only the most suitable sacrifice shall quench the being's vicious thirst. The duty of finding such a sacrifice shall fall upon the head of this house. We know for a fact Hinako is one of those girls born with rare blood and special qualities, as the fox god himself says so in one of the endings. And he further explains that when a girl such as her is born, the heir of the Tsuneki family, in this case Kotoyuki, is possessed by a fox and becomes obsessed with marrying her. The sacrifice is described in greater detail. Drain from the sacrifice her blood, sparing not a drop, and add unto it wine that has been distilled 8 times over. Spare her body of its earthly viscera, and fill it instead with rice that has been mixed with the master's saliva before sealing it shut with needle and thread. In the dark shall the vessel rest undisturbed until the redolent odor of wine rises from her skin. Adorn her in fine garments befitting a bride, then set her afloat on a raft of straw so her blood wine may seep into the water's surface. Do this, and into the depths she shall sink, quelling the wrath that waits below. Reading the line about the raft sounded familiar at first, but I couldn't pinpoint where from. That's because we're never seeing it in the game, but we saw it in the announcement trailer. Other documents found in a dark shrine talking about Hinako confirm that the Tsunekis definitely did not have good intentions towards her, such as, Hinako is mine, her fingers, her lips, every last drop of blood that can be squeezed from her is mine. I forbid anyone from laying so much as a finger on her. I shall say it until my throat is raw. Hinako is mine. So we have a rich, powerful family that every 8 years selects a bride, who they believe has supernatural powers, to be married into them, only for her to be killed in a sacrifice in their family shrine to appease ancient deities. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a cult. Speaking of their family shrine, called Heaven's Benediction, that is the very same dark shrine Hinako explores during the Spirit World sections of the game. It's interesting that while in Silent Hill games we have the Otherworld segments, with their signature areas covered in blood, or maybe rust, or maybe both, Hinako's version is called Spirit World, almost as if this is a nudge to another truth, that this is a world Hinako reaches through astral projection, not a simple representation of her aversion of tradition and marriage. In one of the endings, we find out the red pills Shu gives Hinako are tempered, because, God forbid this girl has a single man in her life who isn't trash. He explains he loved Hinako and he hoped she would have a revelation to walk away from the marriage. So instead of a natural remedy for headaches, he gave her Kakura Makakura, a medicine believed to be used during meditation by people to speak with their inner selves. Made from a flower that also gives the ability to converse with gods, visit their lands, and even awaken dormant powers. Interestingly enough, it looks a lot like the White Claudia the cult uses in Silent Hill 1, but I'm sure it's just a coincidence. And this is how Hinako becomes split into two halves. One who craves independence and freedom to figure her life out, and the other who wants to marry Kotoyuki, as he sends her letters where he professes his love for her and encourages her to fly from her nest, saying goodbye to her family and friends. Hinako describes his letters as smelling of sandalwood. Do you know what else smells of sandalwood? A successful love spell, according to this document. Like I said, God forbid this girl has one man who isn't trash. My theory is that by taking Kakura Makakura, Hinako was able to astral project to the Dark Shrine, where she found out the truth about the Tsunekis, which, combined with her bottled-up anger and the clash between her two halves, pushed her to snap at her wedding, where she kills the people she knew were planning to sacrifice her. Out of the 4 endings, the wedding only goes through in one, and it is as dark as we would expect it to be, with Hinako stripped of her identity and being taken into the shrine to complete the sacrifice. In another ending, Hinako does not go through with the wedding and instead runs away with Shu. We see the two of them running away, but also already bickering, telling each other to shut up, hinting at how this relationship may not have a happy ending either. We also have confirmation that if the wedding does not happen and there is no sacrifice, the geysers erupt and the village is evacuated. But in the true ending, Hinako finally understands she has been a piece on a chessboard, being manipulated by 2 forces that have their own agendas and are rushing, pressuring her, toying with her, forcing her to fight herself. The 2 Hinakos question, why does it have to be that way? Why do they need to fight, to bleed? They're pushed to fight each other once more by the gods, but this time they refuse to, deciding that whatever choice they make, whether to get married or not, will be their own, without any external influence. They take on both the Tsukumogami and the Fox God, vowing to stop the gods from playing with them as dolls once and for all. This is where Hinako finally allows her rage to flow naturally, no longer fighting against herself, no longer bound by a duty to her family, a fear of society, or a rushed decision. She tried all of that before, and it did not work out for her. Now, she is motivated by her wish to be free, knowing she has doubts about her life, but she also has the right to figure things out on her own terms, her own time. And she directs her anger at those who caused it. After they win, the 2 Hinakos agree with Kotoyuki that they will take time to make their decision without any powers meddling. We see the 2 Hinakos in peace, looking over Ebisugaoka, now flooded and empty, since without the wedding, the water dragon was released. As they look over the village, they refer to it as their silent Ebisugaoka, as if, in the absence of the old gods, Hinako ascended from human to the guardian deity of this land. Hinako's quest to choose her own fate not only destroyed a cult that sacrificed women and disguised it as tradition, it vanquished ancient gods that tried to use her as a puppet. It turned a village that had once been the home of gender oppression into the symbol of a woman's persistence in protecting her individuality. Not unlike Alessa, Hinako created her own version of Silent Hill. Silent Hill F tells the very touching story of a young woman who fights against society, family, her own demons, and even gods in the search of her freedom. Hinako's journey truly embodies the game's theme of beauty in horror, going a lot deeper than just the beautiful yet disturbing visuals. It exposes how the beauty society expects from women can hide the horrors of subjugation, violence, and fear. It shows us the horror of a woman's wrath when she finally snaps under that pressure, but instead of wilting, she flourishes into an unstoppable force of nature, disrupting norms, seeking justice, and transforming her narrative. So indeed, hell has no fury like a woman scorned.